Hey guys, my name is Maria Park. Welcome to Approach the Nerd, and we are discussing the LWord Generation Q Season 2, Episode 2 spoiler review. If you are catching this, yes, it's very late. It is 12:46 a.m. Central Standard Time. No idea where it is, what time it is by the time you watch this review. But the reason I switched this live stream from 1:30 p.m. this afternoon to early this morning is because I have a lot of videos to do, and so it's nice that I can get this done. And two, they dropped the episode early for me on my Showtime app. I didn't think I was going to get it until 5 a.m. I got it around 11. So I was like, you know what? Knock it out while it's still fresh. So that's what we're doing. We're reviewing episode 2 because it is out early. Now, I don't even expect anyone to be in this live stream while I'm doing this, which is fine. I just wanted to get the review out. So we're going to start. So if you followed me on ATN, especially in the past few months, you know I've created a character called Angry Grandma. And when I say character, it's really like the manifestation of my inner soul when she's pissed off. So she might pop out a little bit because I'm kind of annoyed with how hypocritical people were being towards Finley. But we'll get to that in a second. So, if you watched episode 1 of season 2, the premiere, you know that Finley crashes the wedding and says that she loves Sophie. And, pretty much we knew everything was going to hit the fan. We don't see them leave the altar, but they are in one of the dressing areas in the back. And Danny's like ticked off with reason. Very basically, she has every right to be ticked off. Of course, Sophie is trying to explain herself and apologize, and Danny's not having it because we know that Danny has always had a fear of Sophie leaving or Sophie cheating or anyone basically cheating on her. She has issues, trust issues. So technically what Sophie did was the ultimate betrayal to Danny. Danny even said, even before she knew what Sophie and Finley had done, she told her that, I have a crush on Bette, but I would never do anything because it's cheating, and cheating is like the worst thing you could ever do. So Danny is very passionate about that, and Danny is like me in that regard. So if you have to cheat on me, break up with me before you cheat, because I can do bad all by myself. So I get what she's saying. So yeah, they're arguing it out, and Danny's in her feelings. She literally tells Sophie she's disgusting, and then walks out, sees Micah, says, "You knew." And she actually asked Sophie how many people knew, and Sophie didn't really say anything. But of course, we know that the whole damn cast pretty much knew, almost. I guess to be fair, Bette and Shane were in on it, but yeah, Alice definitely knew, which means more than likely Nat knew. So yeah, a lot of people knew. What got me was when Finley came and was apologizing. Danny punched the hell out of her. She had a shiner throughout the entire episode. Again, because I do not condone cheating. Finley she did deserve it. So I'm not going to put that on her, say I'm not going to give her a pass for cheating, because she did. She knew that Sophie was engaged to Danny and she did not break up with Danny. Therefore, they were cheating. So I can't condone what she did. So she got that punch. This is the problem that I have. So throughout the episode, everybody's like treating Finley like Finley was the only one that did something wrong outside of Danny and Sophie's sister. And what I mean by that, like Micah was like, you should have told her, blah, blah, blah. And if you watched my review last week, I kind of called Micah a hypocrite, because Micah was pretty much doing the same thing with Jose, because Jose is married to the guy Scott, and he was still sleeping with Jose, which makes him, as Maribel, Sophie's little sister, points out, you're the Finley in that relationship. She was calling stuff out in this episode. She told Sophie she was like dad, cheating and not telling the mother, and their mother, and then told Micah that he was the Finley and said it in front of Finley. So yeah, Micah was being a hypocrite. Throughout the episode, a lot of people were being hypocrites. Bette was treating Sophie like, she was the only one in the world that ever cheated, when we know that Bette cheated. And Shane called her out in the episode saying, everybody's cheated, especially, you did it. how are you going to sit here and be, how are you going to sit here and act like you're high and mighty when you cheated on your wife? And 17 years ago. So hypocrites, people, hypocrites. All right. So there was a lot of subplots. And what I mean by that, there are basically a lot of sectioned characters that were kind of going through some stuff that was outside of Danny and Sophie's crap. And I'll get to what happened with Finley in a second, but I want to talk about Nat because I kind of saw this in the last episode when they were at the wedding. All the hints Nat has been given that she's not happy. Her meeting a polyamorous couple at the wedding and trying to talk to Alice about it. I said that she was polyamorous. Alice opened the door for this, but Nat has always felt like she was into that. So it wasn't too much of a stretch for her. And that's why her sleeping with her ex last season while Alice was at work was not something she initially thought was bad because she figured I'm in a polyamorous relationship and this is what polyamorous relationships are. So she keeps trying to talk to Alice. At the beginning, she's trying to have a conversation. Alice is kind of like, no, that's, polyamorous. Something. She's basically made it seem like that's gross. Only, regular people don't do that, blah, 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 blah. So Nat's crying in the bathroom. And of course, she lies to Alice about that. Alice comes home and she's asleep on the couch and she tries to she uses facial recognition to try and open her phone, which Nat catches her and she asks what she's doing. And Alice makes an excuse saying, I want to play Farmville. And she's like, oh, my code is your birthday. And I'm like, wow, it's just like, so Alice felt guilty and then put the phone down. Later, though, she confesses to Nat because Nat's been acting really weird and kind of out of it. She told her I was about to go through your phone because I think something's wrong with you. And that's where Nat confesses that, there is something wrong. She wishes that it wasn't wrong, but she's polyamorous. And this is where it gets kind of weird for me as somebody who identifies as bisexual, technically pansexual, but, on the spectrum, bisexual. I hate biphobia, and I don't know if they meant for it to sound this way, but Nat was like, me being polyamorous pretty much is like you being bisexual. And I'm like, oh, no. And she's like, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And Alice is like, it is absolutely not the same thing. And so Nat's like, well, do you think about men? And she's like, no, I think about you. And then Nat's like, well, I think about you too. And I'm like, I don't understand. I understand that she was trying to say that my polyamorous identity and your bisexual identity are things that we need to explore and they're valid is what she's saying. But how she made it sound was, oh yeah, I'm polyamorous, like you're bisexual. So that means you'll sleep with women and men whenever you want. And that is such a biphobic thing. And it really irritated me because that's something we hear all the time. So yeah, it pissed me off. But it is what it is. But yeah, so Nat said that basically they need to figure out a way to basically accept that she's polyamorous. And Alice is like, well, what if we can't? And Nat just kind of was like, well, I guess she's out. So that happened. And Alice is this has been a very interesting episode for Alice. Alice's day started with Finley returning. And Sophie being at work. And of course, Sophie wants the segment producer job now because she needs something to distract herself. And so Alice wanted to think about it, but Finley came back, and Alice is one of those people that cannot hide if they're happy about something, even if it's awkward or inappropriate for somebody else. But to be fair, she didn't tell her employees to screw each other. So, it is what it is. But she was so happy that Finley was back because she got her coffee back. She got her Eye of the Tiger song back. She got her girl back. And Finley was trying to work out, basically being there with Sophie. And Sophie was kind of throwing it back in her face that, she ruined her life, which Sophie is selfish as hell for me. I'm sorry, guys. Sophie is selfish to me. Because if you remember in season 1, she was the one coming on to Finley, and Finley was saying, what are you doing? And she was in her feelings because Danny was not spending enough time with her, was pushing her away, was not talking, telling her what was going on with her. For most of the time she worked with Bette, she was 100% more involved in the campaign and the stresses of that than dealing with her relationship. I am not making excuses for Sophie, but because of that, she turned to her best friend, her BFF, and she slept with her. And she thought it was amazing. And I think that she deep down does have feelings for Finley. And this is a real love triangle. It hasn't started yet, but it is a real love triangle because Sophie makes a lot of interesting decisions in this episode. But because of Sophie freaking out on Finley and both of them being called into the principal's office, basically, of Alice's office, Finley ends up quitting so that Sophie can keep the job. And she decides to remove herself completely. So since she's come back, everybody's treating Finley like she literally cheated by herself, except for Danny and technically except for, Maribel, Sophie's sister. Yeah, Micah has a few words, but he's really not in a place to judge anybody because he's essentially doing the same damn thing. The only difference is nobody knows who Scott is, so nobody's invested in Scott, even though Scott is Danny in this scenario. So yeah, he's a hypocrite. So if he would have been like really an asshole to Finley, I would have been like calling BS all day because it is BS. But Micah did say that Finley is hard not to love. And so, he feels like people will forgive her. But again, he is her. So whatever. But yeah, Finley basically gave up her job and she goes and talks to Shane. And this is where we learn things from Shane's point of view. And this is how it relates back to Alice. So Finley went home to Kansas City, stopped drinking, was getting her head on right. And then Alice calls and says, Sophie misses you and wants you to come back. So Finley's like, she wants me. I love her. I'm going back to LA. She even says, I didn't even realize that I was walking in on the actual wedding. I thought it was like a rehearsal or something like that, which is still effed up. But, she's like, I walked in a hat, And then she was honest. She's like, I love you. And that's what I like about Finley, even though Finley cheated and that's not morally sound or right. She did tell her truth. And that's something that Sophie did not do because Sophie is selfish as shit. I mean, I'm sorry. She is very selfish in this series. She had plenty of opportunities to tell Danny that she slept with Finley and she chickened out because she didn't want to lose Danny. And, even though people were telling her you needed to come clean before the wedding, she didn't. And then the worst possible thing happened and it was at the wedding, but somehow it became Finley's problem or Finley's fault. So yeah, once they heard that, I love Shane's reaction. Shane was like, this is Alice's fault. And, and she's like, trust me, I've known Alice for a very long time. It's her fault. And essentially it really is because have Alice not called Finley and said, Sophie misses you, then she would have never crashed that wedding. She should have crashed the wedding though. It needed to go down like this because if Danny would have found out after they were married, it would have been a million times worse. But essentially it is Alice's fault. So yeah, in terms of that situation, not the cheating, but of course that situation. So good job, Alice. Alice is also in the ringer because her book, which I called it, they were going to send that editor to come make changes to the book that she was writing. So they do. They send in a brand new, well, he's somebody that actually works with celebrities that, are doing like autobiographies to try and like make them, basically appealing to all audiences. So something that people want to read because basically Alice just put a book out that pretty much parodied her life. She made fun of it. She was basically doing comedy in a book, like stand-up in a book. And so the character's name is Tom Maltzby, and he's played by my guy, Donald Faison. If you're a Scrubs fan, you know who he is. Love this actor. He is cool in this. He's nerdy. He's socially awkward. He's adorable. I love the little gum scene where he was like trying to get gum and he high-fived Finley and was like so impressed with her gum organization skills. He's so nerdy. I love it. I like Tom. I know he's going to be in a few episodes, but he basically breaks it down to Alice. You are not diving deep into your own biography. You're not telling us how you felt when your dad left. You're not telling us how you're actually, doing with your girlfriend. How did you overcome all of this stuff? So Alice is not the person that likes to do that. She likes to joke. She likes to have a comeback. She's got armor like Shane and like Bette. I think this is why these three get along so well. So you're telling her to go through this armor and talk about things that she probably hasn't even talked about in therapy. I don't know if she wrote about Dana's death in there. If she did, hopefully it's not something she makes fun of, basically to make light of the situation, but that is how she handles things. She gets angry, but she makes jokes. So Tom is there to tell her, but we need to have feelings. We want to know how you feel. And so this is going to be interesting. And even Alice, when she was talking to Nat, said, oh, well, the editor thinks my book is shit. And I'm like, that's not what they said. They said they wanted to know the real you. So Alice is in her feelings, and she's about to be more into her feelings. So there's that. Back to Micah and the Jose situation where he is Finley. Jose is an ass. He is an ass. We knew a little bit of him being an ass last season. It kind of threw us for a loop that he was married, because in the pilot episode of season 1, he always referred to him as his ex. Not that they were actively married. So when he started this relationship with Micah, we were like, oh, okay, this is somebody, he's been in a rebound relationship, yada, yada, yada. We know that Micah used to date Danny before he transitioned. So we have all that story. Even though I was very upset that they didn't have a lot of Micah last season, I am glad we're getting a lot more now. And I'm glad that basically Micah told Jose to fuck off in this episode. But I'm hoping that we don't just see him for like the first couple of episodes and then he just disappears again, because that happened a lot last season that irritated me. But Micah finally saw, and I think it's more Maribel pointing it out, finally saw that Jose is never going to leave Scott. Jose walked out of that house when Micah came in, and's like, I can't talk about this, right now. It's complicated. He's still inside, but I didn't lie to you. Everything I said to you was true. No, dude. No, that is not how this works. Honestly, I think Nat would probably be happy if they had a girl and him or whatever in a polyamorous relationship if he was down with that. But I just think it's interesting that he was completely okay with having, Micah as the side piece and his husband working things out. That is, I felt bad because the actor is very charming, and I feel like, I guess this is his role, and I'm pretty sure that Jose is going to go away. I hope he goes away. I hope Micah doesn't completely backtrack and 180 his decision to tell him to F off, but he might. So Micah might be, I don't know. I don't want to put it out there because I don't want it to come true. I do know in the trailer, it does show that Micah had sex with a woman. And I'm like, for the love of God, don't let it be Maribel. Do not let him sleep with Sophie's little sister, because they are bonding and they've become really good friends and they're adorable. And him being with that sister would be really awkward in terms of him being friends with Sophie. And he's kind of still angry with Sophie. So I don't know how that would work out. But yeah, I'm hoping that is not what's going to happen. But again, it could. We had Bette have her first day at the art gallery with I call him Sererian, or I'm going to call him S because I don't feel like trying to butcher his name right now. So S, the racist, who owns the art gallery, very, very prominent, very well-known, very world-renowned art gallery, apparently, who hired, Bette last week to be able to represent minorities, because he cannot. This man, literally, they're trying to sign a really up-and-coming artist named Kismet Russell. And, he's been interested in working with Bette, but he doesn't want to work with S, because he knows that S is full of crap and is a racist. And he's not wrong. This man came in and showed his butt and was talking crap about, Kismet's idol, saying that, I would have signed him years ago, your idol years ago, but he wasn't ready. And it's like, what? So he's horrible. And Bette, I don't know how Bette's going to be successful at this job, because if this man keeps opening his mouth around all of the minority talent that she's trying to bring in, it's not going to work out. And when Bette was trying to explain this to Gigi, that she doesn't know, she makes a lot of money, but she doesn't know if she could sell her soul, which I thought was interesting. I did like that scene, but it led to a very hot kind of sex scene. I don't think we got the full sex scene, but kind of sex scene between Bette and Gigi, where I kind of felt like it was two tops, stereotypical words, tops, dominant, the dominant women trying to top each other. And I thought that was interesting because it was very obvious that Gigi was the top in her relationship with Nat and probably in all her other relationships, and pretty obvious that Bette goes that way too. They're both people that like to be in control. So you got two women who are dominant trying to dominate each other. I thought that was hot and weird at the same time, but I was here for it. Plus Bette is hot and Gigi is hot, so it's fine. I don't know what's going to go on with their relationship. I still am kind of worried that they're going to have something happen with Bette and Danny, because I don't want that to happen. Not saying I want Danny to be with Sophie. I'm just saying I don't think she should be with Bette. But Bette came to Danny's house, brought food, told her I'll be there for you if you need anything, and then left. And Shane started this poker game because we've learned when her and Tess are like flirting a lot. So I think something's going to happen with them. But, basically Shane and Tess were sharing. And at first, early in the episode, she asked Tess if she would like to basically help out with the poker game because, she was working the game with Eddie before, Eddie flipped out and told, Shane, you tried to sleep with my wife, get the hell out of here, you're banned. And Eddie apparently had Tess banned from every game, any place that was playing a poker game in the entire city. She was literally blacklisted because of the situation, even though Tess didn't do anything. She only brought Shane in, which is kind of effed up. Well, Shane decided to have her own poker game at her place. And she wanted Tess to run it like she was doing for Eddie. And at first, Tess was like, I don't want to get into this because, drama follows you and I don't want to take a risk. But then they start bonding. And it mostly, I think Tess was inspired to talk or to bond more and share more with Shane when she saw how sweet Shane was being to Finley, like giving her a job, telling her, everybody makes mistakes, not treating Finley like the only person that effed up, in this situation. And so she said that her mother has MS, and she's in a facility, and she talked about how she used to play bingo and go take her to church and go play bingo in the basement and stuff like that, how she grew up. And Shane shared that when Kiara and her got divorced, Kiara got half of everything. And the reason that Shane is trying to think about ways of making money, like with the club and of course now with the poker game, is because she's kind of in the hole. Because half her income, half of her estate is gone in that divorce, which Shane does said she deserved it, which she does, because the whole situation was effed up. But yeah, so Shane's got to make all of this work because she's invested pretty much all of her money into the club, and having this poker game could really, make it for her. I mean, help her get back up there, I guess. So there's that. And I was thinking, I guess she could just open up another salon if she really needed to, but whatever. So yeah, I do like how Shane and Tess are. And I think that it's kind of a little bit of a slow burn, but they're probably gonna be sleeping with each other soon. It's the LWord. So yeah, not unhappy with it, but it does lead to the poker game where Bette gets called out by Shane. And I loved it. I love how Alice invited, Sophie to the game. Bette came with Gigi. Finley, who's working for Shane, was working the game. And then of course we had Shane and Tess. And that's when everybody's stuff started coming out. Like you had Alice and Gigi. Gigi asked where Nat was, and she's like, "Are you effing kidding me?" And of course, when they started talking about cheating, because Bette was really treating Sophie like crap. She's like, really making her feel guilty over Danny. And Sophie, who is not the one, I don't know why Bette thought that Sophie was going to be the kind of, I don't know why Bette thought that Sophie was going to be Finley. But Sophie was like, I know I effed up. And she's like, basically, I don't need to hear that shit from you, is basically what she was saying. And it got quiet. Like Bette was like, I'm like, you don't know her. I'm like, hey, you do not know Sophie like that. So I did like that scene because, Bette can get in her, she can be uppity. I love Bette, but she can be uppity. And everybody knows it. If you are a true LWord fan, you know that Bette says shit. And it's just like, okay, but you're a hypocrite. And that's exactly what happened at that table. And so all of them started talking, and like, Gigi's like, she's like, first she said the coolest line. She's like, she said, I hope you plan on doing this, all the time. And Shane's like, that's the plan. And I'm like, it was so awkward. It was so awkward. But then they started talking. So after Sophie snapped at Bette, Shane was like, everybody has effed up, especially you, to Bette. And then, you know, they were like, you cheated. She's like, yeah, I cheated on Tina 17 years ago and I've regretted it every day. And Gigi's like, I cheated. And then Alice is like, oh yeah, you cheated with Nat. I mean, on Nat. And she's got trust issues. I'm like, no, Alice, you've got trust issues because you walked in after they had sex, you know, because of the polyamorous relationship last season and you got in your feelings. Which again, that is also Alice's fault. She's the one that proposed that whole polyamorous situation to begin with. And now it's coming back to bite her in the butt. But she has extreme trust issues with Gigi. She was not trying to set Gigi up with Bette to get her away because she's annoying. She was trying to set her up with Bette so she wouldn't have to worry about her sleeping with Nat. And I think that's another reason why Alice was checking Nat's phone. I really think that theory-wise, that is basically what was happening. And they were going around. We know Shane's cheated multiple times on multiple people, especially Carmen. Yeah, like everybody has effed up. Sophie, Finley, like everybody has done some shady stuff at that table. And even Shane's like, we were a table of F-ups. And I thought that was pretty cool. Now, I don't know what Tess has done. I know Tess has an alcohol problem. I don't know if she's cheated. She was cheated on. She did specifically say, you know, me and Shane, I couldn't stand Shane at first, especially when she slept with my girlfriend. But, you know, now we're friends. And it's like, I'm like, I do love that it came to, you know, all of that came to a head at the poker table. Now, Danny also, again, blamed Micah for not saying anything. And so Micah was bringing some paperwork over to her that her dad had asked. And Danny is now staying with the father, which is so hard for me because Danny's father was so homophobic in season 1. It seemed like in the last episode, the premiere of season 2, that he seemed to get move past that because he loved his daughter. And I really don't want him to regress and be like, see, this is why you shouldn't be with a woman. Or see, I told you that Sophie was trash, blah, blah, blah. If you just listen to me, I really feel like that's something that could potentially happen with him. I'm not saying I think Danny should go back with Sophie. I just think she should get away from her dad too. I think she should go stay somewhere else on her own, work out her own shit and get all these people out of her head. But Micah did talk to her and, you know, Danny was having issues. Like even when she was running, she kept thinking about Sophie and throwing up. She's having issues. She made a video of her basically taking her ring and flushing it down the toilet. Girl mad. And when her and Micah were talking, there was a dish that was brought over. And Micah's like, what's that? It looks good. She's like, it's from Sophie. It's probably poison. And she goes and dumps it in the trash. Well, when he starts talking to her and she's like, you know, he's like, you know, you have all the power here. You probably don't realize it. And she was like, you know, I don't know what I want to do. He's like, well, what do you want? And she said, and he basically told her, you could either not be with her or you could forgive her. And she's like, how would I even go about doing that? And he's like, baby steps, basically, starting with that's probably her mother's dish, like the dish container. So she went and took it out of the trash. And I'm like, okay, baby steps. But when she did come up to Sophie and talk, what pisses me off about Sophie, like I said, she's selfish. She does come to Danny. Her daddy does come to her house and leave the dish. And Sophie's like, you know, I effed up, but just come back in the house with me. She wants everything back to normal, like immediately. Just forgive me. I'm sorry. I effed up. I apologize. And Danny's like, I can never trust you again. So this is what she says. And Sophie starts having like, it looks like a panic attack like she did in the premiere episode. And then she starts crying and her grandmother and her mother are there holding her. And then we see her go back to her apartment where Finley has been staying because Micah said she could stay in the back room. And Finley's like, okay, well, you know, I'm sorry for effing up your life. And then Sophie's like, no, I did that. And then Finley's like, well, I'll move out in the morning and I'll even replace your Cheerios. And she's like, don't go. I don't want you to go. I'm like, here we go. Here we go. I'm like, so the woman that you cheated on your fiance with, the one you said you don't have feelings, her mother asked her if she had feelings for her. And she said, no, I love Danny. Anytime somebody even implies that there's a connection there, she said there's not. Even in the last episode, she basically told Alice, yes, the sex was amazing, but you know, that's it. It's all there was. She's gone, which is a bunch of crap. We know she has feelings for Finley. We know this. This is stupid. And the fact that she, after talking to Danny, who basically told her, and quote, I can't trust you again. She cries it out with her family, goes back to her apartment, and then tells Finley not to leave. So, I mean, that's LWord, man. That is literally the L word. Like, and there's so much drama, guys. There's so much drama. So to recap, because you know I like recapping stuff. Something's going on with Shane and Tess. Something may happen between Micah and Sophie's little sister Maribel, who was calling everybody shit out in this episode. Nat is polyamorous and was a little biphobic as far as I'm concerned. That's my personal opinion. She said some problematic biphobic stuff in this episode, even though she probably didn't mean it, or the writers didn't mean to phrase it that way. Comparing a polyamorous person to a bisexual person is a very biphobic. So not happy about that. Micah dumped Jose. Jose is an ass. Just is. Bette and Gigi are two dominant women in a relationship, technically sexual relationship, technically question mark relationship, that were trying to top each other. And honestly, it was kind of hot. But at the same time, I don't know if these two personalities will win out in the end, or actually can be able to come into a relationship when they both want to be in charge. If I can say it, basically is what I'm saying. It could, but I'm just saying I don't think Bette, especially Bette, I don't think Bette can. Bette seems to have a type, and it is submissive. So I don't know how that would, basically roll out in the end. How would that work as a relationship other than sex? I don't think that would happen. So just putting that out there. Alice is definitely going to have a lot of issues with not only Nat, but also dealing with having to rewrite this book, because they want the real Alice. They don't want the stand-up comedian Alice. So that is going to be a problem, like 1,000,000,000%. Bette and Danny, Danny going to Bette's house at the end of the episode and her hugging her. I'm really hoping that this is not the start of Danny acting out her crush from season 1, the one she admitted to in season 2, the premiere earlier in the episode. I really hope that this is not going to be something she acts out on, because she's hurt, and that is rebound sex. And I don't know how I feel about Danny and Bette being together, to be honest with you. Because I feel like Danny could be kind of submissive, but she's also a little dominant too. And I don't think that would last long with Bette. So Bette has a type, and that type is Tina. I'm just putting it out there. Baby Finley, I just need people to understand, yes, she effed up by sleeping with Sophie, but Sophie initiated it. I'm not giving her a pass, but treating Finley like she had leprosy, people were literally making this child feel like it was all her fault, except for Danny and except for Maribel, Sophie's sister, who again calls out everybody's shit. I really want Finley to be okay. And I really do not want Finley to be with Sophie either. I'm going to be real with you guys. I know she loves Sophie. Sophie is not 100% a bad person, but Sophie is selfish as fuck, and I do not want her with Finley. Honestly, I don't even know if I want Danny and her together. Again, Danny was not available emotionally for Sophie last season. She was very dedicated to Bette's mayoral campaign. She was dealing with the homophobic crap her dad was pulling. She was stressed to the max, and she basically was unavailable for Sophie. There's a scene in season 1 where Sophie's like, I want you to talk to me. And she literally screams in her face and says, I don't have anything to say. And I feel like that was when their relationship started going downhill. And then when, Sophie's mother or grandmother ended up in the hospital, I think she fell and she ended up in the hospital. It was Finley that went with her. And Sophie offered to go, but she was like, no, you're busy, you're stressed, blah, blah, blah. And Sophie didn't fight it. She was like, no, I'm not going to go with you. You're my fiance. No, she stayed her ass at home. And Finley went, and that's how they ended up hooking up. And they never brought that up in this episode. I was like, why don't they talk about everything that happened? Like when Danny was like, I was so good to you. Technically, I got to say, Danny, were you watching your own episodes? Because technically that's not true. There are plenty of episodes where you were actually unavailable emotionally for your fiance, and she would try to talk to you, and you were like, I don't want to talk. I need my space. Back off. So not saying she deserved to be cheated on, but I'm not giving that. I'm not going to give Danny the gold star of best fiance either. I'm just not. So especially when you admit to your girlfriend and your fiance in the premiere episode that you had a crush on your boss, the same boss you were spending like long hours with away from your fiance. That's a little shady, even if you don't believe in cheating. So I had to put that out there because that is a thing. Side note, Shane starting this poker game, I think, is going to start some crap again with Eddie. I think it's going to cause a lot of issues with Eddie because Eddie's going to feel like not only did you screw my wife, you took my idea, especially if Shane's idea, the poker game, becomes very successful. I think it is going to definitely cause some issues with Eddie, and it may cause her to try and blackball, Shane, or blacklist her within the community as well, the LGBT community. Another side note, this is just an observation that I thought of today. I'm in touch with my blackness. I got to call out to my black side people. We need a lot more black lesbians, bisexuals, and homosexuals in this damn show. Yes, we have Bette, who's biracial. She's half black. I got you. Yes, we have Sophie, who is Afro-Latina. But that's it. I mean, it's like the Tasha thing from OG, LWord. I need more representation. Yes, we have Eddie, but Eddie's like a side character that we may or may not see. I want access to more Black LGBT characters. We also have one trans character, that is Micah. We have one Asian character who is also Micah. Micah does not need to be the representation for trans and Asian in one show. He can't carry all that. You need to have more. There are Asian LGBT people. I'm married to one. So I need them to have more representation in this show. This is the one series where you can do whatever the hell you want with representation because your entire theme is centered around the LGBTQ community. You can do whatever you want. Why are you limited? I don't understand that. So there's that. I had to throw that out there because it's just what I do. We did not get Tina this week or Sherry. So I don't know what they're doing as they're talking about their wedding. More than likely we'll see them maybe in episode 3. I don't know. The one thing I wish they did on Showtime, the app, is show a preview for the next episode. But unfortunately, since it doesn't air on TV till Sunday and we get it early, we're not going to see that the promo until probably Monday. Like Monday. I think I saw the one for this one on Monday. So I can't say anything about what's going to happen, but it's a thing. And then the whole thing with Danny, like, I don't know what Danny's going to do because Danny is very adamant that she does not like cheating. She is very adamant that she cannot trust Sophie. And honestly, guys, from what Sophie did at the end of this episode, she is right to say that. Even if Danny had forgiven her, I don't think that Sophie would have gone and said, I want you to leave Finley. I want you here, or I want you away from me, should I say. She would have been like, no, stay. Because Sophie, in a way, I guess maybe she wants to be polyamorous too. Maybe everybody wants to be polyamorous in this damn show. I don't know. Oh, it's a thing. But yeah, so that is my review / recap. And again, I'm so happy that Donald Faison is in this show because it's my Scrubs baby. I love him. He is a great actor. He's been in a lot of stuff and I've loved him in all of it. I think he's even in the Powerpuff Girls, or I think it's called Powerpuff, the live action series as a regular. I think he's a professor. So I love him. I'm glad he's in the cast. And I'm telling you, his character is adorable. I don't know if he's LGBT because, obviously they didn't talk about his sexuality. He's very awkward, socially awkward right now, but he's going to be in a lot of episodes. I saw him credited in a bunch when I was looking at IMDb. So I'm excited to see more of him. But yeah, that was the episode in a nutshell. Hi, Kevin. Again, I did move this up very, very early because this was supposed to happen at 1:30 p.m. But I was like, I got so many videos to do and I can just knock this one out. So even if I have one person, a handful of people in this live stream, at least I got this video done. And then hopefully people will check it out later and then it won't be extremely long. I think we're almost at 40 minutes. So we're doing really well. Let me look at some of your comments. So Kevin, you said, damn, she should have pawned that ring. I know, right? I kept looking at my ring. I'm like, I know how much this costs. Whew. I'm like, just flushing it. I'm like, why didn't you go to the pawn shop? I don't understand that. I don't get it. Messy lesbian drama for the win. That is what the LWord literally stands for. Everybody has the shirt. I will say they have added in messy. There's a messy gay relationship / trans relationship because that whole thing with Jose, I wanted to smack the hell out of Jose in this episode. I'm not gonna lie. He came out and said he was literally coming out like, Micah, it's complicated. I'm like, no, it's not, fool. You're married. There's nothing complicated about that. I was actually more mad at Micah because Micah's such a sweet character. I love Micah's character, but he was effing up. He was Finley. So I'm like, you can't take your crap out on Finley because you're doing the same effing thing. So only, to be fair, Finley only crashed that wedding because Alice told her to come home because Sophie missed her. That's Alice's fault. I'm like, yeah, for Mike dumping Jose. Hell yes. Danny and Bette are too similar. 1,000,000,000%. I do not see that working. It's almost like Bette is literally 100% having sex with herself. So I don't know. I mean, they're hot. They have a great chemistry, but I mean, two personalities that are that dominant, it would be very hard. Again, I'm not saying it doesn't work. I know there are a lot of people in real life that are dominant, but somehow they make it work. It's just I don't see Bette. She has a type. She likes submissive types. It has always been that way. So it's a thing. All of these characters need to stop screwing married people. Yeah, look, it's not even the CW. Like, and so much, yes, more Black LGBTQ representation. I'm serious. I was in my feelings that Tasha was literally the only Black lesbian in the whole damn show. And she didn't even come to the later seasons. And this is 2021. You're in Los Angeles. Come on, people. Come on. So they need to get better at that. And again, I understand that Bette is half Black. I understand this. But again, a biracial cannot take the place of a character or character representation of a fully Black person, because there is a difference. You can love your Blackness, you can claim your Blackness, but we're not going to say that Bette is the Black character because she's not. She is the biracial character. When you look at her, if she didn't tell you that she was half Black, you wouldn't even have to know. We need more Black. We need more Eddies. We need more. What's her wife's name? Camilla? I don't know. We might not need Camilla. She's got problems too, but she might fit right in because she likes to screw around and she's married. So she fit right in with the crew. But we need more representation, more Black representation. I really would like to have more Asian representation because we have Danny, who is on the show Hispanic. I know in real life she's Hispanic and a bunch of other stuff, but you know, the show is Hispanic. And of course we have Afro-Latina. So we do have Black and Spanish, but we do not have a Black actress or actor in any form. And it's so weird to me. It is weird to me, especially with BL fucking M. Why? And I know people will be like, well, you know, look at Angie. Angie's mixed too. She came out of Tina. I'm like, come on, guys, get it together. Get it together. Bette has cheated multiple times. Yep, Gigi has cheated. Nat has cheated. Tina has cheated. Shane has cheated. Who in the show has not cheated? I don't think Tess cheated. Did she? No, her girlfriend was the cheater. She got cheated on. So Tess was the only one at the table that could probably say she never cheated. Unless we don't know about somebody in her past, she could literally say, I was the victim of it. You know, I was the Danny. And Shane did it. But her and Shane are going to hook up. You can see it. Alice was the Finley between Tanya and Dana. Yep, absolutely. It's 2:25 a.m. here in Georgia. I'm sorry, Kevin. I'm sorry. Finley is messy, but at least she is honest. Yeah, I mean, and honestly, even with her messiness, it's not intentional messiness. That's the thing. Like, if you look at season 1, when Sophie started kissing her, she's like, what are you doing? We shouldn't be doing this. And then, you know, she's got feelings for Sophie. So Sophie was like all on her. I'm not giving her a pass, but Sophie initiated it. Sophie kept coming on to Finley. Finley gave in. You know, she's human. I mean, now everybody is super strong like me and Danny and my spouse, because my spouse would never cheat either. Ha. My spouse knows. But now it's like, it made me so in my feelings that everybody was like, Finley, how could Finley do this? I'm like, Sophie did this. Sophie messed up her own damn life. Yeah, Finley helped her cheat, but at the same time, she slept with her. And then Sophie was like, literally like, all right, now I'm back with Danny. I mean, how messed up is it that she slept with Finley and then went home and got in bed with Danny? And Danny even said in the episode, that night I was holding you, you were crying. That was the night you were with her, right? And I'm like, that is effed up. That is effed up. She had plenty of chances. Then when they went to Hawaii, in the last episode, during their dinner, their bachelorette, all this stuff, She had plenty of time. Her sister told her to come clean. Micah, who was effing cheating too, told her to come clean, and she still didn't come clean. She messed up her own damn life. And if I was Finley, I would have been like this. Yeah, I effed up by sleeping with you when you were engaged, but I've been at this job just as long as you. You're going to have to learn to work with me and stop dumping all of this and all of the responsibility on me. And by the way, Alice, it's your fault. I'm like, and I want to raise. I'm like, so that's how I feel. I don't know. That's just how I feel. Like the saying goes, it takes two to tango. It's you. It does take two to tango. I guess where Nat's concerned, it takes three to line dance. I don't know what the hell Nat's doing. Nat was like, Nat got a taste of that polyamorous life with her ex and Alice, and she lost her effing mind. So Alice has got a problem. She does. And Alice does not know how to handle things. She basically avoids it, laughs it off, or writes about it in a very sarcastic, stand-up-ish way. And it's not going to work this time. Nat is not backing down. She wants a polyamorous relationship. And Alice is either going to have to deal with that and accept it, or she's going to have to move the hell on. So, but again, Alice's fault. If you really look at this episode, Alice contributed a lot of things that happened was because of the contributions Alice was making. And let's not forget, in the last episode, Alice was the one that told Sophie to leave everything in the past. So she was pro Sophie, telling Sophie not to tell Danny. And that's lying. And that was about cheating. So then, Alice, how can you be in your feelings about what Nat did and tell Gigi, oh, you're cheating, when you know that Sophie cheated and you were completely okay with her not coming clean to her fiance, gave her advice about it? That's messed up. That is messed up. Alice just needs to be honest about what she wants. She needs to figure out what she wants to begin with. She's got a lot of trauma. I think the person that she loved the most in this world was Dana. And when Dana died in the original OG, I don't think she was ever the same. Not saying she didn't love Tasha, but again, Tasha, let's not forget, Tasha actually had attraction to, I forgot the girl's name, but there's another girl that came into their lives that she was attracted to. And like Tasha let Alice know. And it wasn't until the end of the very last episode that Tasha came back and said, I want to be with you. I don't know what happened with Tasha. I don't think they've ever said what happened with Tasha. And that makes me sad because I really like Tasha. So, it's a thing. Is the thing. As a matter of fact, whenever I see Sophie, in Batwoman, I always think about Tasha because of the Don't Ask, Don't Tell and how she didn't want to come out originally because she didn't want to be booted out of the military, and Sophie did the exact same thing. I always thought, oh, that's a really similar storyline, even though technically that is what happened in the comics with Sophie. So I really loved the whole thing with Tosh and Alice, and Tasha knew how to handle Alice. She didn't put up with Alice's crap. So I don't know why they fizzled out or they broke up. I would love to know why. I'd love to have a backstory on that. But, it's just like the whole thing with Carmen. I know they can't bring her back because of cultural appropriation. The writers don't want her back because she's not actually, Hispanic or Latina. But that whole thing would have been so much like just closure in general to have Carmen back. I mean, just have Carmen come back and realize she's Persian. That would have been great for me. But yeah, it is what it is. But all right. I'm done. I am tired. I know you guys are tired. Kevin, you're awesome. I try to pronounce your name. Thank you for being in this very last minute stream. I know it changed the time on you guys, so I appreciate it. If you're watching this video later, please put your theories on what you think is going to happen in the comments so we can talk about it, because again, it's the L word. Everybody's talking about the L word. This stuff is a mess. It's like the Jerry Springer episodes you want to watch. And if it is night for you, have a good night. If it is day/morning for you, have a good rest of your day. And I will see you for our L word. Well, technically I have an LWord theory video coming out, but I'll also see you for our Owl House stream as well, which should be on Saturday. That one will not change. It will be at 11:30. I think it's at 11:30. I have that scheduled for, or 11, but it's in the community tab. So check that out because it is there. And then side note, Motherland Fort Salem fans, I told you I was going to find a video for you guys that kind of made my Rayla point for me about the fans and acceptance. I did put it in the community tab. I really want to know what you think when you click on that official video on basically the Freeform or Motherland Fort Salem official YouTube channel. Look at the comments and then think about what I said in my live stream. Just saying. All right, guys. I love you. And I will see you next